Wanted to welcome you all to our Q&A session with Microbiology and Immunology grad Nicole Hajjar, who graduated in 2018. And I just wanted to give a little bit of background about why we're doing this, and then we'll dive into some questions for Nicole. I think we've got a few questions from our social media as well. So yeah, but really we wanted to provide this opportunity for our students to ask questions to some of our incredible alum that we have from the Faculty of Science, and get a really realistic picture of what their career paths are looking like, what they've done, and how their undergraduate degrees have shaped where they've arrived at, where they've gotten to. So this week's focus is on science and society, so very broad category of anything from policy and sustainability to health and medicine, and anything that would fall very broadly within that theme. We have a different theme for every week in the winter term, and this will be happening until the end of March, early April. So our next theme coming up in a couple weeks is research and discovery, which there are tons of opportunities in the Faculty of Science to gain excellent research experience. We have a week coming up focused on science outreach and education, followed by a week on gaining work experience and getting industry ready after your BSc. We have a week focused on science communications. So what are the ways that you can gain communication skills during your undergrad and find ways to share your science with the public. And then we're going to cap everything off at the end of this term with a workshop on med school, which I have a feeling is probably of interest to many of you here on this call today. So we're going to invite someone in to chat a little bit about tips and tricks about medical and different health professional school applications and admissions, and maybe Nicole can share a few of her tips as well. So please keep your eyes open on your emails. We're going to be sending upcoming events at the top of every week. So you'll have that in your inboxes every week. We really hope you continue to join us for these sessions. So yeah, today we have Nicole joining us. Nicole is, as I mentioned, a graduate of the Microbiology and Immunology program. She also did minors in psychology and French, which I think is just a really fascinating combo of subjects and topics. Nicole is currently a medical student at Queen's University, and was the neonatal life support programs coordinator at the Canadian Pediatric Society. Did I get that right? Amazing. Yeah, awesome. Okay. Following her undergraduate degree here at Dal. So we're going to chat with Nicole today about her undergrad degree and her journey to medical school, and some of those experiences that have sort of fallen in between those times. So Nicole, I guess I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself a little bit, and then we can just start taking questions from the group. So if you have a question, just use the hand up function here in Teams. And if you're comfortable with turning your camera on or your microphone on, we'd love to see your faces. If not, feel free to just put your question in the chat and I'll make sure Nicole sees it. So yeah, Nicole, I'll turn it over to you to say a few welcoming words.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. I graduated in 2018, which feels like literally a decade ago now. Like Allison mentioned, I worked for a year after my undergrad for the nonprofit organization, the Canadian Pediatric Society. And then after that year, I got into med school at Queen's. Yeah, I'm happy to answer questions about just about anything. I did a lot of volunteering and working for nonprofits throughout my undergrad. I also did the honors program, and I did NCERCs and all those things. So I'm happy to answer questions about research, and obviously about my old job that I had and about getting into med school. Really, I'm happy to answer questions about anything. I wish I could be with all of you in Halifax. I'm from Ottawa, but I loved Halifax so much. Wish I was there.
We wish you were here too, but this will do just fine. So yeah, any questions from the group right off the bat? Feel free to put your hand up and I'll call on you. Or just turn your camera on, whatever works best. We do have some questions as well from our social media. So maybe I'll get started with those, and then our group here can think a little. Oh, we do have a hand. Wait a sec. Hold on. Do we have a hand? Yes, we do. Marisa? Is it Marisa? Marissa?
Yeah, it's Marissa.
Marissa,
You said
go
you
ahead.
had volunteer experience. I was just wondering how you got that as an undergrad student.
Yeah, so my whole like 4 years at Dal, I volunteered for the Ronald McDonald House in Halifax, which I feel like if you're in sciences, lots of people volunteer there. Like in terms of that place specifically, I had actually volunteered at the one in Ottawa like before. So like that's an organization that I think is always looking for volunteers. So I honestly just like emailed them or called them. I don't quite remember, but a whole group of my friends volunteered there, and I would highly recommend it. For those that don't know, it's an organization that houses families temporarily when their kids need treatment at the IWK. So it's like a lot of people from like New Brunswick, Newfoundland, like coming into Halifax. And then I actually ended up like working there as well as staff. I know like a lot of my other friends in undergrad ended up volunteering for like similar sorts of organizations. And I think you can usually just like email them. I know it's hard with COVID that a lot of places have like stopped accepting new volunteers, but definitely don't be shy to just like email or call or reach out to places.
Yeah, in general, is your strategy to sort of cold call, or did you find that there are a lot of organizations who would put a call out for volunteers, or a bit of a combo of both?
I think that with the Ronald McDonald House, we actually, I don't know if Dell still does this, but I was in residence in first year, and we had like a volunteer week at the very beginning of first year. And that was also one of the organizations on the list. So we had actually gone around to all of them and like met up with the like directors of all the different ones, and then lots of people got involved that way. But otherwise, I think like cold calling in like a small city like Halifax is like perfectly fine. I wouldn't be shy like doing that.
Mm. Awesome. Thanks, Marissa. I hope that answered your question there. Looks like we have a question here in the chat. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So great. Thank you, Nicole. So I feel like a lot of our students are always asking me and advisors tips and tricks about, applying for med school and what that is like. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about, your journey to applying for med school and, the ups and downs and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely a long story. So like I said, I did research most of my undergrad. I worked with the same faculty, and I did research in like vaccines and immunology, and I loved that. So for a long time, I was considering just doing like a graduate degree, but also after working at the Ronald McDonald House and working with lots of like kids who were coming to the IWK for treatment, I think like it was really that experience that made me want to go into medicine. And then like I will say like applying to med school is really daunting, and like it takes a lot of effort, and I think it's like totally fair to be like intimidated by that. But I think if it's something you really want, like I would definitely go for it. I tried to get into med school right after I graduated from Dal and didn't get in. I think almost all my good friends now in med school at Queen's ended up getting in like on their second try. So like definitely don't be discouraged by that. Like I think if it's something you really want, like you should definitely go for it. In terms of like specific tips, I definitely think like getting involved like early can be really helpful. Usually you end up applying to med school an entire year in advance. So if you sort of save everything until fourth year, that might not show up on your application right away. So definitely if you can, like, I think some people like get really intimidated and apply and like try and do a million research things and a million volunteer things. And I didn't do that. I did my one volunteer job that I loved, did research with one lady my whole 3 years. I never got publications in undergrad, and like that was enough. So yeah, I don't know if that's super helpful, but.
No, I think absolutely. And it looks like we have a really great follow-up question here from Irene in the chat, which is, what are your considerations in choosing which medical school you want to go to?
Yeah, so I think that definitely is different for everyone. I'm from Ottawa, Ontario, so I only ever applied to the Ontario medical schools because I wanted to be closer to home. And depending on which province you're from, there's different considerations. So like if you're from the Maritimes, it's a lot easier to get into Dal Med School. If you're from BC, it's a lot easier to get into BC Med School. So I think like the location is definitely a big consideration. But truly, like among the medical schools in Canada, like there's so few. They are all great. I have friends at literally all of them. So I think a lot of it just comes down to like where you want to live. I think like you'll see like things saying that U of T or UBC are the best med schools, but across Canada, I think they're all pretty similar.
That's great advice. Thank you. And I'm sure we probably have some folks here who are definitely interested in med school, but other aspects of, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your year working with the Canadian Pediatric Society? Because even your job title and the work that you did there just really jumps out at me. And maybe talk about how that work experience, what it was like, and how, if it, do you think it helped you sort of get into medical school, and what your experience was like with the Canadian Pediatric Society, because it sounds fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. No, that was a great job. I think like a lot of things at Dal really helped me get that. I would always tell my friends that I got that job, and they would be like, how did you do that? Because it's like a very adult job for a new grad. But a lot of that went back to like the volunteering I did at Dal. So by volunteering with the Ronald McDonald House, a lot of those kids were people that would be seen by neonatologists, which is like a doctor for babies. And like just having the experience of working for a nonprofit, I think is like great. Like you will get experience in communications and dealing with difficult situations. And I actually ended up getting hired there, and I coordinated all the new volunteers and trained all the new volunteers. So I think just like finding like, if you can get involved with things a little bit outside of science, you can like really market yourself, like you can get new skills. And I think then when I went to the Canadian Pediatric Society, I got a job working with neonatologists, which are like the baby doctors. And I was able to talk about everything I did at the Ronald McDonald House, which really helped me get that job. You needed a degree to apply, but I think just having the science degree wasn't enough. It's because of all the experience I had. And the other thing, which Allison mentioned at the start, is for some reason, just literally for fun, I did a minor in French while I was at Dal, which was super fun. Like I did French immersion when I was a kid, but like that's really not that helpful. You forget that. But then when I redid it at Dal, I loved it. And like working in Ottawa, working for nonprofits, like often having a second language is really helpful. And I think just being able to say that I had the minor in it was honestly a huge reason that I ended up getting that job.
Absolutely.
And then, working there, I was basically working and chairing a bunch of committees of physicians. So I was able to build connections with physicians that live across the country. So it was actually super helpful for getting into med school. And even now that I'm in med school, I'm doing a project with one of the neonatologists I had met through that job. So yeah. I will also say, just like as an aside, like that job was not something that I really had on my radar. It's something I sort of fell into, and I was really disappointed when I didn't get into med school. But then like having that job was actually such a blessing. So I wish I could have told myself like that, like it will all work out. Like not getting into med school once is not the end of the world. Like I'm so lucky I ended up having that work experience.
Absolutely. I think that's really, really awesome advice. And especially from someone who's a few years out like you are, to, everyone, hindsight is 20/20, they, the saying, but I think that's just really, really valuable advice. The undergrad time and making these decisions can be really stressful. So yeah. I see that Shirin is typing here, and Shirin, not to call on you, but did you want to ask your question using your microphone or turning your camera on? Not to put you on the spot there, but I did see that you're typing there. Oh, hello? I think hopefully I didn't just scare Shirin. All right. Well, I'll give Shirin a minute to type out that question there. Any other questions from the group right now? If you want to turn your camera on or put your hand up. If not, I'll go to a couple of our other questions. Hi, Kaylee.
Hi. I had a question about kind of navigating the last semester of your fourth year, and then kind of thinking of, for people who are concerned that they might not get into med school, how do you kind of navigate that end of your degree experience and like handle like whether or not you should apply to different jobs? How did it feel for you, and what did you do about those kinds of existential feelings?
Yeah, no, it's so funny because that literally feels like so long ago, but I only graduated in 2018, so that really was not that long ago. Yeah, my fourth year was pretty stressful. I did the honors program. So honestly, in my last semester of fourth year, I was really just focused on finishing my honors thesis. And it was definitely like difficult juggling all the unknowns. I did I did apply to med school straight out of undergrad. So I feel like I definitely tried that. But once I realized like that I wasn't getting in, like that's when I really more so in the summer started applying to jobs and stuff like that. Yeah, I would yeah, sorry, that's a tricky question because I'm trying to remember what I was thinking back then, but I honestly was so caught up in honors. I think it's definitely fair. Like I had a few friends that actually ended up applying to multiple programs. Like they applied to graduate school, like dentistry and medicine, just to sort of like get those applications out there, and then sort of decide like from there. I'm sorry that's not very helpful. If you have a follow-up question to that answer, I'd be happy to answer.
No, it's really helpful because, I'm in the same situation, also doing my honors in micro. So it's kind of like reassuring to know that others have felt the same way.
Yeah, definitely. Like you can always, like, of course, talk to advisors. I honestly, like, I know this is a Dalhousie call, so maybe I shouldn't say this. I never found the general Dalhousie advisors super helpful. But I think like if you can find like maybe your honor supervisor or like a prof that you know really well from your courses to sort of like talk about these things, like sometimes that can be really helpful. I also found like at the very beginning when I was applying to med school, I was super shy about asking the actual school questions, but I always got really good answers. So if you have like, if you're interested in like DalMed, for example, like definitely like email them or like ask them questions. They're usually pretty good about answering. And like I said, applying to med school is like really scary. Like everyone is stressed about it. So like don't feel like you're worried about it and everyone else has their stuff together, because sometimes it can seem like that.
And just to Nicole's point about advisors in the Faculty of Science and in your department, I'm just going to put a link here. There are other links out there, but we compiled a few bios of some of our undergraduate advisors in the Faculty of Science. It's not the full extensive list. We have many more advisors, but I would absolutely echo Nicole's advice and connect with a faculty advisor in your department if you haven't already, because they know the subject, they know that's the world they're living in. So I think that's really fantastic advice. So I've just put a link there And we've got to add more advising bios there, but they are such a wealth of knowledge, and I think, yeah, that's really fantastic advice. So so we did have a question from Sharon, and I'm sorry for putting you on the spot there, that it's 3:30 a.m. where you live, and I'm sorry that you're joining us in the middle of the night, but thank you for doing that. And your question is, are there any other job opportunities after the BSc in immunology? Yeah, Nicole, I don't know if you want to share your insights on that.
Yeah, I'm quickly trying to think what all my friends ended up doing. I think, like, to be honest, like a lot of the people when I was at Dal in my program did end up pursuing either like a master's degree, or ended up going into some sort of healthcare field. So I had friends that went into medicine, like dentistry. I had a few friends go into physio. I think what other people did. Definitely a lot of the people that I ended up graduating with, I think ended up doing more school. As far as just like jobs straight out of undergrad, like I said, like I worked for a nonprofit. I think there's like nonprofits are like always hiring people. I think one of the keys is to like really try and think like what skills you have, because they're not necessarily going to be a nonprofit in immunology. It might be like in something else, but if you like have data analysis skills from research you've done, or like other skills you can apply to other jobs. Charity Village is something me and all my friends use. That's how I found my job. I think lots of people only think about Indeed, but Charity Village is a great website for jobs. I think nowadays too, I've gotten a lot of like direct emails about like public health opportunities all over the place for science grads, pandemic. So you can definitely like look at like the government of Canada job banks have a lot of public health jobs for science grads. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, and coincidentally, I actually have a master's in public health and have somehow ended up working in university administration. Here we are. But if that is an avenue that you're interested in, then what I would recommend is taking as many like social science courses sort of as electives. I find that MPH programs in particular, and some of the public health things like health promotion and epidemiology, really want to see that their students just don't know the science side, but the writing side as well. I think knowing how to write is really valuable. And I look at I help with admissions at University of Toronto's MPH program, and we really kind of put a lot of weight into that social science piece too. So I always encourage our students to explore different courses and take electives and try to gain, experience outside of the classroom. I think for applications like medical school and professional programs like that, your work outside of the classroom and the application is only going to be stronger. They're not just looking at your GPA; they're looking at you as sort of a whole person, and the way that you've shaped your undergraduate degree. So. Yeah, I think that's just my advice, that, coincidentally, that I have a background in public health and my experience with graduate school in public health. So just wanted to put that in there. But Jocelyn has put in the comments here, I'd also recommend startup research companies as a research assistant or associate, even through Innovacorp in Halifax. Yeah, that's a great point. They're always looking for science students with the incredible skills that you've gained in your undergrad, and there's a lot of emerging companies and startup companies in Halifax. Like, it's really taking off, and that's a really great piece of advice. Yeah, thank you. Sharon, I hope that answered your question. Feel free to ask any follow-ups, and thank you again for joining us at the middle of night where you are. Is there anyone else in the group right now that has want to turn their camera on or put their hand up and ask a question? All right. Well, I'm going to ask a follow-up question from one we kind of chatted about, from Sharon's question, and that was, you talked about advisors and that generally maybe some of the advisors were helpful, others not. And I was wondering what were, the other people, experiences, courses, and, other resources at Dalhousie that really helped shape your decision about, your next steps after your undergrad.
Yeah, I think a lot, like the most helpful was probably just through peers. I think all those societies still exist, but I was on SIMS, like the oh gosh, what does SIMS stands for? Microbiology and Immunology Student Society, but the letters are another way. I was also on the Dal Science Society, like the DSS. And I feel like that was a really great way, especially if you were like a first or second year, to like talk to upper years that were like in a similar program or the same program, and they could like give you good advice on like what they're doing and help with like applications like once you get there. Like I think it's definitely important to try, and I know it's hard with COVID. I don't really know what's going on in Halifax, if you have in-person classes or not, and if you're seeing people ever, but when you can, hopefully soon, definitely try and like connect with upper year students, and just like being involved on those like types of student committees, I think can be really helpful. I know, I remember, don't crush my dreams and tell me that this didn't end up happening, but I remember when I was on SIMS and DSS, one of the big things we were pushing for was like reforms to the honors program, just because there were a lot of issues back then. So I think just like engaging with other students, you can see how your programs are run, and like I think that can be really helpful.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And we have Kendra from SIMS who's present with us today, so that's great. Yeah, if you are interested in joining SIMS, then there's the email there. Hi, Kendra.
Hi.
All right. Did you have a question for Nicole, or just saying hi?
I do not, but thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, it's our pleasure. It's tons of fun. It's just so great to connect with our amazing alum.
Glad to see SIMS is still alive.
And all of our student societies, everything at Dal is so active online, and it's not person to person, but yeah, everything is super active. DSS has been just running some incredible stuff this year, so I would absolutely plug that as well. Just get involved, even if we are online. I know it's hard and it's exhausting to be on our computers all day, but it's just such a great way to meet people and connect. So I think that's a great piece of advice. Nicole, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about like a day in your life as a med student. Like what's a typical day like? I mean, I have zero understanding of what med school is actually like, and yeah, what happens?
Sure. I'll give you a perfect day in the life from 2019 pre-COVID. So most med schools in Canada, which I'm sure most of you know, are 4 years. Some are 3 years, which is another like fun consideration. Sometimes people really like those 3-year programs, but most are 4. So at Queen's, it's 4. So most places, like your first 2 years, you're mostly doing like class stuff, and then your second 2 years is all clinical stuff. So you're basically just like in the hospital all the time. So I'm in second year now. So mostly now we just like have class maybe like 4 hours-ish a day. And then usually once or twice a week, we do like clinical skills where we have like volunteer patients and physicians come, and we practice like in small groups. We learn like how to do the physical exam, how to take a history, how to check blood pressure, all that fun stuff. And then truly, especially before the pandemic, I remember like being so scared like to start medical school, thinking it was going to be this like crazy scary thing. And I honestly think I had a harder time in the microbiology program than I am now. Like, yeah, if anyone's considering it, like it truly has been like an amazing experience. Our community, at least at Queen's, is like amazing. Like our class is on the smaller end of med schools. We're only 100, whereas some are like 300. And like there's such an amazing community of students. Like we would go out all the time pre-COVID. Not like med school's no fun. Yeah, and we've had incredible like opportunities to like work with doctors, especially pre-COVID, like in the hospital straight, like first week of first year, you could like sign up to be working in the hospital. Yeah, and it's very interesting. Like our class is so diverse. Like we have students that are younger than me. We also have students that are 40 years old with 4 children. So and like we have people that did like a master's degree in sociology and now they're in med school, or people did like nutrition degrees. We have a chiropractor. Like,
Wow.
there's lots of different like paths to get into med school. That's for sure.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's I'm sure, yeah. Have things changed? How have things changed when, now that we're in COVID times? What does a day in the life look like now, I guess?
Yeah, mostly Zoom School of Medicine right now. We still get once a week of in person, which was actually today. So like today we went in and did like all of the like abdominal exam and like the liver exam. Trying to feel a liver, it's really hard to feel a person's liver. Yeah, it's honestly not been that bad. We had the privilege of already meeting all of our class, so even on Zoom, it's still fun. Everyone puts their camera on and it's fine. And hopefully, I have hope that the next year's class will hopefully get to be in person.
Awesome. Great, thank you. So another question from Shirin, which is great. This is a really, really good question. CoOp Opportunities also available with BSc in Microbiology and Immunology. What kind of jobs did they offer? It's not off topic at all. And Nicole, I'm not sure if you have any insight about the CoOp piece.
Yeah.
From your end.
Unfortunately, like I didn't do the CoOp program, and I actually like don't remember any of my like close group of friends in immunology doing the CoOp program, so I'm actually not entirely sure. Sorry.
No, and I'm trying to find the website right here, and just bear with me for a minute. This is where, being online, it becomes kind of awkward because you just watch me looking for information on my computer. But microbiology, and sorry, Shirin, just correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, you are looking for opportunities in micro and immunology. Okay, so what I'm going to post right here in the chat, and apologies if you've already seen this, but there is a page right on the site CoOp Office, which is an office at Dal that just deals with co-op. They deal with science, with engineering, and I think computer science as well. And on this page here, I think, yeah, it actually lists a few past roles that students have had. So that's absolutely worth looking through. And we have a really phenomenal co-op coordinator that we work with, whose name is Caitlin Burek. And I'll find her contact information and put that in the chat as well. And she's so wonderful and supportive, and always happy to help students with questions about co-op. So
I'm having a slight flashback that maybe that I knew someone that did a co-op at Immunovaccine. I'm not sure if that's still around. It's another one of those. It's like a Halifax startup. It started while I was there, and someone in my lab. Okay, it is still there. Someone in my lab ended up. When I was an undergrad, she was a grad student, and then she ended up getting hired after her graduate degree at IMD. So yeah, that's an option. That's definitely a really cool Halifax startup.
Oh yeah. And Kaylee said, I have friends who worked at the NML in Winnipeg for the summer. Others worked at the immunology lab at the IWK. One of my friends worked at a vaccine company in Dartmouth. So I wonder if that's maybe the same company there. There's so many opportunities, and we have co-op programs. If you're not joining us from the microbiology and immunology program, I believe we have co-op programs in 10 of our programs across the Faculty of Science. So there's lots of options. Lots of opportunities, and yeah, would highly recommend getting in touch with Caitlin. And I just put her little advising bio there, because she's such a good resource about co-op at the university. So
I think one other interesting place, maybe this is what you were talking about. I think it's in Dartmouth. Another girl that was in my lab that was a grad student ended up getting hired at Precision Biologic, which is like another really cool Halifax startup, or Dartmouth startup.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, there's tons of opportunities. Yeah, lots to do. yeah, get in touch with Caitlin. She's an expert. So yeah, amazing. Thank you. Any other questions from the group at the moment? Feel free to turn your mic on and ask. Okay. Oh, Jocelyn, hi.
Hey, Nicole.
Hi.
Nice to see you in person. Hi, everyone. I'm your alumni officer, Jocelyn. I also work in the dean's office. I guess I just have a quick question. I'm sorry that I wasn't here for the first 10 minutes, so I hope you didn't touch on this yet. But I guess I just was curious to know when you decided that a career in medicine was going to be your path, and how you kind of decided when you wanted to switch gears and perhaps pursue medicine.
Yeah, I really didn't think about it until I got to Dal, and probably not until I'd say second year, that I really was thinking about it. I talked a little bit about at the beginning that I had done research all of Dal, and that's also something I was really strongly considering. But I spent too many hours in the basement of the IWK in the animal lab, and I just decided that I really wanted healthcare. And as I mentioned before, I had volunteered for a healthcare organization, and I know I said this earlier, but I could not highly enough recommend the Ronald McDonald House. It is an amazing place, and I spent so many hours. I worked overnight shifts there, so I would spend all my time just talking to families about their children and about their struggles with the healthcare system, because oftentimes they were coming from lower SES and coming from really far away, sometimes from Nunavut, just to come to Halifax to get their kids treatment. So I think really having those conversations is what really motivated me. I would definitely recommend, again, I know this is annoying because it's COVID, but if you are considering healthcare, I think it's important to try and find some sort of organization, whether it be volunteering at the IWK or volunteering at the QE2 or wherever, to have those opportunities where you actually are speaking with patients or speaking with family members to see if that's really something that you're interested in. Because I think a lot of people do their science degree, but medicine is so much an interpersonal profession. So I think it's really important to have those conversations with people and see if that's something you really are passionate about.
I think that's really amazing advice, and you kind of touched on what might be some more the more difficult areas of the profession, and how do you as a medical student sort of navigate those more tricky and difficult and challenging aspects of the job, and have you encountered things like that in med school or in your time in a nonprofit setting as well?
Yeah, I definitely just think one other thing that drove me to medicine is there's such an opportunity for advocacy. It's a huge part. I feel everyone in my class sort of has their little niche of the activities they take on in med school, because there's not a lot of time to do extracurriculars in med school. You kind of have to pick one. And I've really spent most of my time doing advocacy work. I'm on a couple committees here right now, looking at improving our admissions and improving our curriculum. As we hopefully all know now, by 2021, medicine has a horrible colonial and racist history, unfortunately. And I spend almost all my extra time these days doing policy work and committee work to make our processes here more equitable and more inclusive, because they historically haven't been, unfortunately. So if you have a passion for advocacy, I think medicine is a great place for you. Just we talk about sort of non-traditional careers out of a science degree, there's non-traditional careers out of a medical degree. Lots of people end up sort of dedicating their work to advocacy. I think that's also something that more and more places, especially now, are considering in their applications. So if you are interested in medicine or any other healthcare profession, I think having a background in advocacy or working in your own community is something that can be really important. I think we've sort of moved away from, I don't know if Dalhousie still does the Ecuador trips, but I think more and more schools are not looking, while that would be amazing, more and more schools are looking to see if you've made a difference in your own community. So I think if you have a passion for community work or you see something that can be improved in your own community, that's a really valuable way to spend your time.
Oh, your response just gave me goosebumps. Like what what an incredible response. And I think, you know, the fact that you're giving back to your program in such a specific way to make it better for future students and make the field more equitable is it's just so inspiring. So thank you for sharing that. It's a really important aspect of the field too. And Jocelyn's question is, do you know what area of medicine that you want to dive into a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm hoping to do pediatrics, which again is literally just because of working for the Ronald McDonald House. All the patients there are pediatric patients. And then with the job that I ended up having at the Canadian Pediatric Society, I was mostly working with neonatologists, as I mentioned, which are the doctors for little babies. So that's sort of the area I'm interested in.
Feeling that was probably your area, but you never know. Amazing, thank you. Any questions from the group? All right. Well, I wanted to transition to the last few questions here about, you know, you've been giving a ton of advice in general, but what kind of advice would you give yourself, your first year self, back when you were, you know, you're starting your first year at Dalhousie, and yeah, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah, I think like this is very corny, but it would definitely be more of just reassurance. Like I remember being in first year and like going to these career events and just feeling like none of thing was ever gonna work out. And like I definitely think that like if you are passionate about what you're doing, like it will work out for you eventually. And like don't be too worried and try not to compare yourself to others. I remember like I knew upper year students or friends that got into medical school that were so amazing. And I was like, oh no, like I will never be as good as that person. And I still got into medical school somehow. So definitely don't be too hard on yourself. Don't compare yourself to other students because there are so many unique pathways to medical school and to future careers. So it's really not worth worrying about other people.
Yeah.
One other sort of smaller tip, and I know we haven't really touched on research, but I was very involved in research my whole time, is that like research is really hard and it's not fun if you don't like what you're doing. And I think lots of times, like in first year, people just go to whatever lab, whatever prof will take them, they just jump on that. And oftentimes the first lab you end up at is where you end up your whole degree is in that first lab. So there are lots of opportunities to get involved with research, and I would definitely like do your research and make sure you find places that are a good fit like for you. That's not just applicable to research, like any sort of volunteer opportunities. I know people always want like to get the most opportunities to look good for medical school, but it's really not fun if you don't like what you're doing. So definitely like make sure when you are committing yourself to things that it's what you want to do.
That's really good advice. And a question that we get often is, you know, how to go about getting, in particular, like volunteering in research labs. And you know, you've kind of described I'll take whatever comes up first. But do you have a few strategies for, you know, reaching out to faculty and like finding those opportunities? We get those questions all the time. It's like, we know they're out there. We know the research opportunities are out there, but how do we do it? So how did you do it?
So oh my gosh, I'm going to get my years mixed up. I think I started after the summer after second year. And then I did research in the lab the summer after second year, the summer after third year, and then all through fourth year for honors. And I honestly cold emailed faculty. I think that's how most of my friends did it. I think to like make yourself stand out, I a few tips. One, don't cold call the entire department because lots of people speak with each other. So I would go on to like the Dalhousie webpage, look through everyone's bios, read their research papers, and if there's people that are really interesting to you, pick a handful of people to email. You can introduce yourself and sort of explain what it is about their research just in a few sentences that interests you. You can maybe talk about an article that you read about that they published, and ask to set up an actual meeting. I actually went and like basically interviewed with the person I ended up doing research with. Oftentimes, like it'll be helpful if you have a CV to send them your CV, send them your like unofficial Dow Online transcript. And then if you do manage to set up a meeting, obviously it'll just be a phone call now with COVID, I think. But definitely be prepared to like talk about why you want research and like be prepared on background knowledge on the research they've done. Yeah, I think that would be my tip.
Oh no, that's excellent. And I will put in the chat here, the Faculty of Science does have a webpage that outlines all of the different undergraduate research opportunities. So from summer research to honors research, experiential learning courses, things like that. So that's sort of your one-stop shop. We, I believe, have just closed applications for summer research awards for this upcoming summer 2021. But you know, if you're around for a few more years and this is something that interests you, then summer research awards are really fantastic ways to get research experience, work really closely with a scientist, and get paid. Nicole, did you do summer research as well? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And
I ended up I applied for like the NSERCs, I think both summers.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would definitely recommend, like, if you are interested in doing an honors project in your fourth year, it can be really helpful to do a summer of research in your second year or your third year as a way to sort of meet a supervisor to then do your honors project with. And yeah, definitely apply for those awards. The NSERC one, I believe, still only requires a person to take you and a transcript, and that's it. So those are like really easy to apply and definitely like great learning experiences. Oftentimes too, if you're not able to do that, lots of labs will let you volunteer, or at least they did when I was a student. Even if it's just like once a week or twice a week in a lab, just to sort of build your experience. Yeah, and if you are thinking about summer research, I'm not exactly sure what the deadlines are, but I know those awards were always really early, way before the summer.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, but like if you're in first year right now or in second year right now, and you're interested for like next summer or next summer, definitely like think about that early. And yeah.
Yeah, if you are just hearing about summer research for the first time, the deadline has closed for this year. But again, yeah, for future years, and the departmental deadline will always be before the faculty deadline. So keep your eyes on that. There are advisors and representatives in each department as well who can talk to you about the specific opportunities in the department, and that's usually listed on the department site. So lots of help there, lots of really great experience to be gained in research in the Faculty of Science. So yeah, would highly recommend that as an opportunity. And I think your advice about how to go about doing it was right on. So yeah. So we have 10 minutes left here. And I just wanted to give an opportunity to the group one more time to ask any final questions to Nicole. I think we've gotten through most of our questions from social media. But yeah, just wanted to give the group one more opportunity to ask questions, even if it's, just general advice or anything like that you might have, Nicole, or give a few minutes to people here.
My one other extremely general piece of advice would be to get on LinkedIn and get on Twitter. I think can be super, like, it's a great way to find opportunities and to sort of like start using your voice. Like, I know this is people from across Dal Science, but especially if you're in microbiology and immunology and you know stuff about vaccines, Like
Mhm.
you can get on Twitter and like talk about it. I spend way too much time on Twitter, but I think it's a great way to connect with people. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good advice. Get out there, get your voice heard. I like that a lot. Amazing. Well, does it, yeah, just one final call. I just want to make sure I'm not cutting anyone off before we shut things down here. But yeah, Nicole, I just really wanted to thank you so much for spending time with us this evening. The end of a long work school day for all of us, but it was so nice to chat with you and just, you know, for someone to provide a really friendly, warm overview of, you know, how you got from, you know, studying science in the Faculty of Science to med school at Queen's and all your incredible opportunities in between. So thank you for sharing that. And I hope this was helpful for our students tuning in. We are going to make this recording available afterwards on our website. So if there's people that weren't able to attend that might find this helpful, then please share. Yeah, I think that's it for me today. And yeah, Nicole, any parting words or?
I don't think so. I will put in my chat. Follow me on Twitter, or feel free to email me. Now that it's COVID, have way too much free time. I always check my email, and I feel like I got advice from a million people when I was applying to med school, and had all these people read my application. And like, I'm aware that I didn't get into med school by myself. So if you have any questions at all, I'm extremely happy to answer questions if you want to email me.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice of you to volunteer your email to everyone. So thank you guys. I'm going to put in the chat as well where this recording will be available and for you to check future events because we've got all kinds of stuff planned for the winter term. So thank you everyone so much and good luck. And I hope to see you all again soon. All right. Bye.